Yesterday marked the 100-year anniversary of a fire that roared through the Garden City in 1916. More than 3,000 people were displaced, 600 buildings destroyed, and the city suffered $4 million in fire damage. A century later, we take a look back at a major turning point for Augusta in this special report.
It was devastating to the city of Augusta.
It's always important to remember our past, because if it's often said if you don't remember your past, you may make the same mistakes in the future.
Any community needs to know its history, because if they don't know its history, they don't know why they're here, why things are the way they are now.
It was 1916. 100 years ago, Woodrow Wilson was president. The cost of a stamp was 2 cents. The Boston Red Sox won the World Series, and a devastating fire destroyed most of downtown Augusta. That fire started here on 8th and Broad. Today, the SunTrust building occupies this space, but a century ago, the Dyer building stood tall on this corner. It burned down when a hot iron left on ignited a blaze that ripped across 25 blocks of downtown Augusta.
We have a lot of material here on the 1916 fire, and one of them that I found very unusual is a souvenir. They also did a whole series of postcards.
Okay.
Which I found a little unusual.
So they
too.
sold postcards of the fire.
And they sold this. This was 25 cents.
25 cents.
Yes. Just to commemorate this one event.
If only these walls could talk. Back on March 22nd, 1916, this building was known as the CNS National Bank. It's located only about 50 yards from the Augusta Chronicle building that burned down. But this building did not. It stayed intact. These walls right here prevented the fire from spreading to more blocks of downtown Augusta. But sadly, one building that could not be saved was historic St. Paul's Church.
There were about 85 families in this church who lost their homes as well as their church. So it was kind of a double loss for those people.
Montgomery's knowledge of the Great Augusta Fire was on full display recently when he took part in a special program at St. Paul's to commemorate the event. Walking through this church, it's like hopping in a time machine. These broken offering plates survived the fire, and before the flames touched St. Paul's, the original baptismal font was already removed from the building.
And it was a conscious decision not to go and build somewhere else after the fire, but it was important that we be downtown, that we be a Christian presence here. And so I think that to me is the most really symbolic thing that we've got going.
On this day, St. Paul's talented organist Keith Schaefer is playing for the first time in concert Phoenix. It's a special piece commissioned to serve as a powerful reminder to what was lost and what was gained on March 22nd, 1916.
It was really symbolic of not just the church burning, but the community burning. But it survived and continued.
Now, remarkably, nobody died in the Great Fire of 1916, and following that tragic day, great strides were made in improving fire safety codes in downtown Augusta. And,
amazing story.
I've been in Augusta for 20 years,
right,
and I knew very little about that fire until we started, researching that piece.
The thing I found most interesting, you said it was started what they believe.
They believe it started with a hot iron that was left unattended.
And it caused that massive blaze.
Yeah, which spanned more than 25 blocks. And by the way, if you want to learn more about that day, March 22nd, 1916, I encourage you to head down to the Augusta Museum of History. Nancy Glaser has a great exhibit that focuses on the fire.
Yeah, make sure you check that out.